Yeah, at the outset, I'm very grateful and thankful to the team, Tripur branch of the SIRC, of the ICI, SM Ramuji, the chairman, the secretary, Varth Rajanji, the galaxy of past chairman, Gopalanji, Shiv Chalamji, and I appreciate the way the story is being shared by Sesadriji and the he has introduced me and put forward with each one of you. Friends, let me have a little understanding where we are and where we were and where we want to be. You see, like we are somewhere, wherever we are today, it's a development of the policies, framework of the understanding thereof, and through of the those who are the entrepreneurs in the system, and the support from the professional bodies, professionals taken together. So with those kind of understanding, if we go back before 1992, things were quite different. It was a very much different. You all have seen it. What was the scenario before 1992? What brought us to today is a free economy system and openness of the mind. Vision is being opened up. Though in today's scenario we talk about the Atmanirbhar, that is also a part and parcel. That is not like if we are moving away from the global system or we are moving away from the free economy. That is not the scenario. We have to strengthen ourselves. That is basically dependence has to be on the others, has to be taken out. We must be self-dependent. That is the simplest method. At the place you are sitting with, like we talk about, always talk about, if it is a if Tripur is known as a knitwear capital of the country. It's a capital from where all across the globe, it is not for a particular brand, all across the globe, different brands, whatsoever you name it, whether it is uh, any name you give it, whether it is Diesel, whether it is Adidas, whether it is Fila, whether it is and H&M, Reebok, all textile products which are of the nature of a knitwear. Knitwear is earlier it used to be some part of the northern part also, like Ludhiana, that was surpassing it, but Tripur has taken over by way of showing the strength of that one particular place, and naturally it is giving it in employment to so many. Maybe I do not know the exact number, but maybe most of the majority must be getting the employment under the textile sector itself. It may be ranging out of the, suppose if we talk about the 10 lakh is the population, maybe it's 6 to 7 lakh will be implied with these kind of the textile places only. And you see, like the kind of Tripur has the got the presence in the system of the economy. Yes, it is bringing out the best in the system as a as a earning on the free convertible currency. Naturally, you need what you need to have with as a country. It's a free convertible currency which one needs to have to spend with and to make more strengthen as far as the reserve in the free convertible currency. And maybe this Tripur may be getting around 25 or 27 thousand crore for the from the exports and some in the local domestic areas also. So friends, now let us understand what brought these kind of situations. 1992 was the drastic changes what happens with in India, in the system of the India. Earlier it used to be a local economy, or we called it a controlled economy. But subsequent the thought process started with how long you will continue to be remain like that. One has to change. Like you see, like this government also at it through the different mechanism has brought so many changes, whatsoever is being not done for the so long, so many years. So same way the structural changes was being brought in. in the year 1992. An agreement under the WTO was being signed. We became part of the WTO, and ultimately we got connected with the across the globe as a part and parcel of the globe is one. Like if we talk about the GST, what is GST? Across India, whatsoever, wherever you are, whether you are in the whatsoever the state you may be into, the same set of rules and regulations, same set of the rate of taxes are being there in the same way. The trade working boundary has no limitations. Trade working has also to be developed in the same manner. With those kind of concepts, the WTO formation has happened place, and we becomes part of the WTO in the year 1992. But that cannot happen. Reason being, countries divided into the developed countries, countries there in the developing stages, countries there in the landlocked countries where there is a hardly difficult to reach any material. If it is to be exported, it's difficult, and it's a cost as we look at the, and somewhere some as a developing and underdeveloped nations also. So that is why whole of the nation cannot be brought under the same parameters. Yes, over a period of time, if we thought of, if we can export to the other underdeveloped countries or landlocked countries, same way the developing developed nations export to each one of them. So definitely, maybe in the time to come, with the bringing out the strength equally, so then it can be done. But it will not be possible if we talk about our own profession itself. Like we have a 3 lakh chartered accountants, cannot be equal. Those same time qualified people, same time suppose someone is qualified in this attempt, the everyone those who qualified during this time cannot be equal, because some has the strength of their more intellects, some have the more power of their legacy, some have something different. So those things are bound to happen with. So with those kind of understanding, we have to understand with the India has taken its shape. Whatsoever we are today is the journey which started way back in the year 1992. Before that, if we really talk about, if you want to have a telephone line at your home or in your office, how difficult it used to be. Leave apart this mobile or the smartphones. If you want to buy a car, there was a limited option. Either you have to go for the Maruti 800, or somewhere one has to find the ambassador. So those kind of positions were there, and that was also in the black market. And if we talk about the, if you, even if you want to have some entertainment equipments like radio or the TV even, what was the position? You have to get the license also, go to the post office, and yearly renewal of the licenses also. Those were the situation. But thank God, and thanks to the leaders then in the our country, they taken a step, and we have moved to the position. Whatsoever we want to enjoy with, whatsoever we want to have with, that is there with us, provided we have the resources to buy it. So those things has been evolved, those things has been taken forward, and with that kind of understanding, we have to understand the foreign trade policy and the matter connected therewith. And you see, like we being a professional, what we are a service provider. The time has gone. Once we used to be looked like only an auditor or the accountant. That is not the situation now. Now we are a complete business solution provider. If we do not know, if we are not able to understand what is being required by our clients, so we cannot serve them up. Today everyone needs a solution. Clients need a solutions, and the solution provider is an expert. Who can be that? A chartered, no other than the profession of the chartered accountancy have that kind of strength, whether it is the understanding of the business, whether it is the execution, whether it is the costing part, whether it is the auditing part, whether it is the taxation side, whether it is the business understanding, and whether it is the internal controls and the supervisions. Everything is being covered as far as the chartered accountant profession is concerned. International law, trade law internationally, Indian law like Industrial Development Regulation Act. Same way, a law which is being brought into in the year 1992 was the Foreign Trade Development Regulation Act. Because we entered into an arrangement under the WTO, we signed with the WTO. Yes, we will be following with all whatsoever the obligations, whatsoever the right and duties are being given under the WTO mechanism. So that legality has to be taken forward through the law to be developed here. Like earlier, it used to be the import and the export control orders, but that was the orders which applies to the country those who deal with the export and imports. But situation was like that. India is sort of the free convertible currency. If you want to go to the overseas on a business trip also, there was a limited number of days with a limited spendings per day. So with those kind of calculation, you have to get the money or the free convertible currency from the banks or the authorized dealers. But that is not the position now. Now we are moving towards a free. We have reached to a stage where we can get the money whatsoever we need to have to develop our business across, to spend the money overseas, and to have the our development structural changes in our business systems. With these are the changes basically to understand with what we have to understand the structural changes whatsoever has happened with because of the WTO arrangements. Now this law has been brought into Foreign Trade Development Regulation Act, and consequential impact is that there is a foreign trade policy because this is a not a law in itself. Law is with the supplementing of the rules and regulations and supported by the foreign trade policy. Then the holistically speaking, to carry out the import and exports, there are certain other governmental authorities like to control the free convertible currency and having some kind of the mechanism of monitoring of the free convertible currency is the FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act. Then on the revenue side, if we talk about or the movement of the goods, there is a custom law, custom act, custom tariff act. So those are also related with the imports and exports. Then third it comes, next it comes is the sportive hands. CHA custom agents are there, then export promotion council are there, then consultant like you and me, we all are there in the system, so that the maximum benefit goes with, and ultimately there is a saving of the cost also to have the better understanding of the cost mechanism also. So what we are a part and parcel of that structural change is required in the system of the whether it is trade internal, trade external. So external trade earlier it used to be little difficult, or it used to be called like if one is an exporter and importer, so it was looking like a he is a great man. But that is not the situation now. Every business, every business, whether it is small or the medium or the large, has to have something to do with the foreign party, either in the services or in the goods, either in the imports or the exports, or in the technology or in the investments. So those are the need for the time to develop oneself. Otherwise, it is quite difficult to develop it. Today, my focus will be on the foreign trade matters, foreign trade policy, and naturally, origination is Foreign Trade Development Regulation Act and the rules framed thereunder and the regulations thereunder. This is not a big law. It is carries only 20 sections, but it empowers to the central government to come out with the policy. Every 5 years there is a policy. We talk it is a foreign trade policy. And because this policy, whatsoever is going on is 2015, 2020, but it has been extended by 1 year because of the reason by 31st March 2020, the pandemic has already taken place. The situation of the corona or COVID-19 was quite alarming, and it was difficult to come out on the 1st of April with a new policy and understand and go to the masses for the dissemination or the bringing out to the fraternity So then government thought of let us extend the earlier existing policy by one more year, which has been extended till 31st March 2021. The new policy may be coming on 1st of April 2021. So I'll be sharing one PPT also giving some statistic to each one of you to understand what all are the opportunities in the system. Yeah, let me. Is my PPT is there? My presentation is there on the screen.
Yes, sir. Useful, sir.
Is my PPT is visible to all?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Super.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just to have a little feel like what is the current scenario of the export and import trade into India. If we talk about for the year 29, 2019 20, 1920, there is an export of 528 billion US dollar. Import is 598 billion US dollar. We are trade deficit country and trade deficit is 70.16 billion US dollar in the year 1920. But it is not like we if we divide into two parts. One is the merchandise goods, another one is the services. We are surplus. We are surplus by 82 billion US dollar, 82.72 billion US dollar. We are an export of 214 billion US dollar and import is 131 only. So we are surplus there and it is growing. It is growing. But merchandise, we are deficit, and deficit is somewhere, it is alarming. It is not like it is a normal deficit. It is alarming because the production level are the if we talk about China or the other country from where we are basically increasing our imports year to year basis. Reason being, here, as far as the structural changes required, the infrastructural inefficiencies, or so many things where needs to be strength is required from the support with the support of the government, that is somewhere missing with, and people are importing at a cheaper price, and the production locally may be at a higher level. So now, but it is fortunate government now thought of by way of giving some kind of incentive like production link incentive schemes, some kind of the infrastructural development incentives like capital incentives for the development of some uh, infrastructure, those kind of incentives. It will be easy to produce locally, and the dependency on the imports has to be brought down. That is the basically scheme of the Atmanirbhar, self-dependency rather than dependency on the others. So those are the things. If I'm sharing you the figure which relates with the current year, April to August. Basically, August month is already over. I'm sharing you those kind of figures. Here you will find that there is a trade surplus. Why? Because there is a shrinkage of the as far as the economy size is concerned. Exports has also down, though it is not much, and export is down by 19% if we talk about all three since April to August, and the imports is down by 38%. That is why we have achieved the trade surplus, though it may be temporary. As the things starts moving further, so we'll be getting maybe in the same position or maybe little bits here and there. But if we talk about this services is not much impacted. Exports is though it is down by 8%, but the exports are moving because it's a technology driven things. Like IT is the major contributor, and IT is rather increasing upon. Dependency on the Indian IT sector is much been there with the all countries across. So imports of the services is down by 18%. Here also we are a surplus, and the merchandise also we are with a surplus figure. So there are certain majorly imported items. So friends, let me have a little feel like where we stands with as a professional. As a professional, first we have to understand the business of our client, and we must understand where we can give some kind of benefit to them by way of the understanding of the foreign trade policy. Because foreign trade policy law is basically a law which have some kind of benefits to the exporters, some kind of uh, reduction or some kind of benefits if you are importing some kind of raw material which is to be exported, the finished product to be exported, or some kind of the imports of the capital goods, even the plant and machinery and equipments, where the goods produced out of usage of that machines are being exported with. So these are basically to understand with. So we all have to understand with foreign trade development regulation is the law. Then foreign trade policy is the policy which is been empowered through that law to the central government to come out with the policy. 2015-2020 was the policy. Policy has a 9 chapters. Policy has a 9 chapters. I'll be sharing with only which are of the utmost importance for each one of us to understand with. And then I'll be understanding with a question answer whatever comes to your mind, because this program must be a program of the interactive interaction rather than the one side. I as a speaker I starts going with, and rather if question starts coming from your side, so that will be more beneficial to so many others also. The participants get benefit of not because of the speaker only, because of the co-participants also, because they raise the question comes to our mind, even maybe wild even. So with that also, that gives the benefit to the other participants also. Before going this, as far as the policy is concerned, let us have some understanding of the uh, mandatory documents whatsoever is been required for the purpose of the exports and imports. If we talk about the exports, there are certain mandatory documents. Some are the between the exporter and the importer, whatsoever documents additionally required to have in the transaction. In the case of the mandatory, like in the case of the exports, bill of lading, alternatively airway bill, if it is through the air, lorry receipt, railway receipt, or any documents which proves that goods are moving from the one country to the other country. Rakesh, funny name. Commercial invoice and packing list, that is the another document. Shipping bill and the bill of exports is the another documents which is being authenticated by the custom department. Like it's a verification by the custom department, and the approval like it's a let export order given by the custom concerned officer at the custom port. In the case of the imports, same way like bill of lading, airway bill, commercial invoice and packing list, and bill of entry. Bill of entry is same way let import order passed by the custom authority. Those are the basic things. Now have a 9 chapters under the foreign trade policy. We have a 9 chapters under the foreign trade policy, and those policies is relevance for each one of us. Even if we are not into this foreign trade consulting matters, even then if we really understand the importance of these subjects, if we talk about the profession we belongs to, it is with the business. We are integral part as a sportive end to the business community or to the community who carries out the trade and commerce. That is the simple understanding. If we understand the different law, we can serve them even if as a chartered accountant, as an auditor, we are serving them up. And if we are not understanding the applicable law and relevance of the different law, so we cannot even undertake the audit effectively, whether it is the internal audit or external audit. or the management consulting services even. This out of this 9 chapters, the first chapter is the legal framework and the trade facilitation. What is the legal framework? This policy is being brought under some law of the country that I have already shared with you is the Foreign Trade Development Regulation Act. The framework is been starting from their power with the central government, and central government brings the, this is a tested principle. Yes, this is a validated by the Supreme Court also in some of the case. Then trade facilitation, the objective, earlier it used to be different. Now it is the facilitation. It is not the controlled or the other things which earlier used to be. Like if we talk about the different law, the bent of mind which earlier it used to be, that is not now. Now it is to facilitate the trade. Even the import is has to be in the manner so that it is giving benefit to the economy. Though it is an import, the money is flowing from our country to the other country, but that does not mean you can prohibit it. You can have some kind of those kind of things which are not allowed under the WTO, and you start doing so, and you will be ultimately prohibiting something which is not taken forward accordingly. So those are the objective of this policy. Then chapter 2, it is the general provisions relating with regarding the imports and exports. Friends, let us understand there are three parameters through which import and the exports takes place. Those are the general provisions. Like one is free. If you are an exporter, you are freely allowed to undertake any business which you can undertake beyond the boundaries to any country unless until it is restricted or prohibited in the prohibited category or the restricted category. That is the free category. Most of the items, whether it is the product, whether it is the services, are in the case of the imports also, in the case of the exports are also, most of the items, majorities falls under the free category. The second category is the restricted category. Restricted means you have to complete some formality, one or the other, before it is been imported or before it is been exported, depending on what you are doing with, if it is under the restricted category. It's a precondition. There is a certain precondition, like you have to obtain the license from the office of the DGFT, some permission from the local collectorate also, some permission from the Ministry of the Environment or the Forest also, some permission from the some government departments also. So those may be the condition for the purpose of the imports. Those may be the condition maybe for the purpose of the exports also. So if you complete and fulfill that kind of conditions, so then you can freely, then you can make export or the imports as the case may be. The third one is the prohibited. Prohibited is that category where you are not allowed to import if it is in the import category or if it is an export in the export category. But naturally, government has the abundance power. Like in the current scenario, in the pandemic situation, a matter relates with the HCQ. It was being brought under the category of the prohibited category, but no one can export it. But naturally, within the treaty between a country helping to the other countries, like if we talk about the USA, the president of the USA talked to the prime minister here. He need to have some kind of help from him for the purpose of imports from India of an item which is under the prohibited category, maybe some medicinal equipment, or I am talking about the those which during the pandemic time it has been exported also through a simple giving an exemption certificate to the party, simple one party or two party, or maybe it is though it is prohibited under the normal system, but government through the power given under the different law, so they can allow it under the exemption mechanism. So this is the third one, is the prohibited category. Free, restricted, prohibited. There can be one like through the channel agencies, like if we talk about the some STC, MMTC, or the some government, those channelizing agencies that export and import can happen through them also. That can be only in the few cases. So those are basically the general provisions related with the imports and the exports. Those are basically state trading enterprises. Through them also it can be done if it is been allowed with. If it is been there in the that scheme somewhere for a particular product or the few products. How the exports and import takes place? If I want to be an exporter, I want to be an importer. So it is not like I start, I can, if it is intended for the purpose of the trade and the commerce. If it is for the individual, yes, one can import it, one can export it, one can send the goods from here. Suppose you want to send some goods to your relative there, you can send it. But if it is for the commercial purpose, it is for the trade, so then one has to obtain the importer exporter code number. IC code is must for any exporter and importer if it is meant for the purpose of the trade or intended for that very purpose, for the purpose of the trade and commerce. IEC, though it is a PAN number itself, but that is not automatically. You have to register yourself under the category of the obtainance of the IEC at the office of the DGFT, Director General of Foreign Trade, .gov.in, and then naturally once you are being registered there, it's a hardly any job nowadays. Earlier it used to be different. When it used to be on a physical format, things were quite difficult. Now it is a automated, auto populated things. You just file the details, OTP will come, and you complete your formality of identification of your and your credentials. Then IC number will be allotted. Your PAN number will remain as a IC code. Then another is the registration cum membership certificate. In case you want to have some benefits available to you under the foreign trade policy, you want to avail those benefits, you want to have that benefits, so one has to register oneself by the respective promotion council. Like if we talk about the textile products, there is a promotion called council called Apparel Export Promotion Council, AEPC. One has to register with it so that the benefit is available to you for the purpose of the maybe in the case of the GST, if you want to have the benefit of the filing of the LUT. Same way, if you want to avail the benefit of the MEIS, merchandise export, which I'll be deliberating upon, so then one has to have the IEC code number. If you want to obtain the benefit, avail the benefit of the advance authorization or the EPCG authorization, then also one has to have the registration cum membership certificate from the respective promotion council. Like in the case of the textile, same way with the different products, there are 35 odd export promotion councils for the different products. Like for the services also, Service Export Promotion Council. So friends, now those were the chapter 1 and 2. Now I'll be touching upon one of the chapter which relates with the scheme, which relates with the benefit, which is a fiscal benefits, which is a benefits which is in the financial terms given to the exporters, given to the exporters, because ultimately objective of the country goes with ki export to be promoted. Export to be promoted, though definitely you cannot hold on the imports, but the export promotion, there must be a valid reason for the promotion giving the benefit to the exporter. So government came out with two schemes. One relates with the merchandise, another relates with the services. There used to be the different scheme in the earlier regime, earlier policy, 1924, but those has been brought and consolidated under the one scheme called merchandise, another scheme called services, SEIS, services export from India scheme, and the merchandise export from India scheme. The objective of these schemes are because we all understand with the India is inefficient in number of ways. There the infrastructural inefficiencies, and all these inefficiencies carry some cost also. There are the cost involved, and there is a natural, but natural. If we find something is which because you can make it is more export intensity, it can generate more employment and enhancing the export competitiveness becomes the essential part for the country for the growth of that particular product. So then that goes under the category of the benefit is being given to the exporters is the under the merchandise export from India schemes. What is the benefit? Benefit may vary from the product to product, maybe 2%, maybe 3%, 4%, 5%, or 7%, depending on the product. Earlier, it used to be the country you are exporting, that also becomes integral part of the benefits percentage, but that is not the case now. And how the benefit is being calculated? Though these are the auto-populated things on the website, on this portal of the this dgft.gov.in, but it is calculated on the basis of the FOB value of the exports or the amount realized out of that FOB value of the exports, whichever is lower, then percentage to be multiplied with, and then the benefit is available per shipping bill wise. And maximum 50 shipping bill in one application combined together. You can file an application through the digital format of the this DGFT, and license is also been through the digital mode only, auto populated mode, through a technology driven things. Earlier it used to be the manual intervention, but now there is no manual intervention as far as the MEIS is concerned, unless until some query comes, some observation is been there, then only these kind of things can be there. Otherwise, there is no manual intervention. If everything is matched, all the checklist is been completed, filing is proper, the payment is been realized, shipping bill is connected, payment details are being connected. There are the portal interface between the custom department, interface with the this banking sector, authorized dealer, and you have to combine those kind of details from the banks also, from the custom also, and put forward your calculation and ultimately give the percentage, and ultimately you can file the claim, and the claim is being processed very fast, maybe same day or maybe next day even. So this is quite easy to file. Earlier, it used to be country specific. Also, there were country were divided into three parts: category A, category B, category C. Category A was carrying some traditional market, European Union, USA, Canada. Category B used to be Africa, Latin America, CIS, Turkey, Asian countries, Japan, Korea, China, Taiwan. Category C used to be the general category, general other than these category. Those were the category C, but now that has lost its relevance. Now, friends, if we talk about it is a custom clearance, it's a through air or the through shipping line or through by road or by rail, those kind of things. If it is through the e-commerce system or through courier or the foreign post office, so then what is the system? Benefit is available here also. In the MEIS scheme, benefit is here also, but here there is a limitations. Here the per consignment value of the FOB value of the exports should not exceed, for the purpose of calculation of the MEIS, should not exceed more than 5 lakh rupees. 5 lakh is the outer limit, and if the FOB value is more than that, so then your benefit will be restricted to 5 lakh only. Benefit will be restricted to 5 lakh only. So that is the position as far as the if it is a foreign post office or the courier exports. So friends, in this category there are certain ineligible, not eligible incentive under the scheme of the MEIS. There are certain chapters which are taken out. like chapter 1, 2, 10, 24, 25, 26, 27, 31, 34, 43, 47, 77. These are the chapters which are not being allowed to avail the benefit under the MEIS scheme. That is there to understand with. Even if you are exporting and your export falls under this chapter, so benefit will not be there to you. Then there are certain ineligible categories. There are certain ineligible categories. Like there is a deeming fiction, like if you supply the goods from the DTA to the SCZ, so that is also deemed as an exports. But the benefit under the MEIS will not be available. Though if SCZ unit is exporting to the overseas, then benefit will be there. Imported goods exported as it is, so then benefit will not be there. Export through transshipment, meaning thereby exports that are originating in third country, but it has been shipped and passes through here in from India, then the benefit will not be there. Deemed exports, benefit under this category will not be there. SCZ products exported through the DTA, if goods are being procured from the SCZ by the DTA unit and it is then exported, so then benefit will not be there. Export products which are subject to minimum export price or the export duty, so then benefit is not there. Export made by the units in the FTWZ. There is a concept like SCZ and FTWZ. FTWZ is the free trade warehousing zone and SCZ is a special economic zone which carries the relevance through the other law called SCZ Act 25 2005. That is the law which is being brought into, and India's one-third exports are being through the SCZ mechanism of the country. That is basically proving the best. We all as a professional can understand with there is a huge opportunities in the SCZ knowledge if one has the knowledge of the SCZ. And I just want to share with each one of you that we as an institute has been through the mechanism of our collaborative approach. You see, like there is a system of development which says a person is not complete in oneself. It is the consultative approach and the joining hands with the others that only one can make the others forward, and it is beneficial is everyone. Same is the collaborative approach. Your ICI through this committee. Now this earlier the name of the committee was this export of CA services and WTO. But the nomenclature of this committee has now been changed. This committee for the development of international trade services and the WTO. Now this is the name of the committee which is in the last council meeting only which has been approved, and this committees now will be in future will be working on under the name of the this committee for the development of international trade services and WTO. The collaboration is being done with the Invest India. We have through an MOU for the development of our profession. We have arrived at an MOU with the Invest India under the though it has been started with under the able leadership of our from the our council member Babu Abrahamji. When he was the chairman, he took the initiative to enter into the MOU with the Invest India. I'm his successor only. I'm the chairman of that particular committee. So this Invest India is we have an MOU. This year we have entered into an MOU with the Service Export Promotion Council (SCPC) for the promotion of the accounting and financial services. Now we are moving with the MOU with the this Export Promotion Council of the EOUs and SCZ, which is likely to be signed on this 27th of this month between the leaders there and leaders of our institute, so that our profession get benefit of the export from the SCZs and the EOUs also. So friends, let us understand the collaborative approach is the best approach. Like I'm there with each one of you today. what is this? This is just like a understanding the strength of the others. One can feel like, yes, knowledge is the power with each one of us. Even if we know better than the others, so we are, it is good for us. And sharing knowledge is equally good for us also. So this scheme was been there, MEIS, and which will continue to be there for for little more time. But in the time to come, this scheme will be replaced by another scheme called RoTAP, rebate on the this scheme duties and taxes on the export of the products. RoTAP will be the name of the schemes, but maybe for this particular year, this will be continue as it is, though government has already, cabinet has already approved the new scheme, and which will be likely to be from the 1st of January, the new scheme will be brought in. But once once it's brought in, then only one can understand when it is there. The another scheme of this equal nature is the for the purpose of the services exports. We all are a chartered accountant. We can serve to the other countries also, clients from the other countries. And if we serve to the overseas clients by the mechanism of the this, as far as the mode of services to understand with, if we fall in that category, so yes, we can be available. This benefit is available to each one of us if we are an exporter of the services to the overseas clients. You see, like this scheme is for a particular segments. It is not all the services. There is a list. I'll be sharing with you the list also. This list is there. So this list, you identify if any of your clients is dealing in that particular services, and the mode of services you have to understand. The conditions has to be understood with. Then you can simply approach your clients. Are he availing this benefit or not? Let me share with each one of you. Even even the exporters which are there for a very long, they may not be aware of some of these schemes. I know I have carried out so many diagnostic study or due diligence where I find they are missing out some schemes. Though now the schemes are not big. Earlier it used to be number of schemes at the same time. People miss one or the other, and ultimately they lost the money. But now, because there are only few schemes under the category of the promotion, one MEIS, another SEIS, but one even then the service sectors are not much aware of. So find out if you are have a clients on the services sector, so you must guide them up. If their services are being listed here, so then one must find out. So this is a notified services. Location of service provider must be in India. Location of services recipient must be from the overseas. The person from must be from the overseas. That must be understood with. So then it comes is the mode of services. There are four mode of services by which you can export your services, but the benefit is available under only mode 1 and mode 2. Mode 3 and mode 4, this benefit is not there. So that has to be understood with. And there is a minimum target also, minimum threshold also. If you are an individual or the sole proprietorship firm, so you must be exporting minimum 10,000 US dollar, or other than an individual or the sole proprietorship firm must be exporting 15,000 US dollar. Then only this benefit will be available to you. Now coming to mode, another condition, let me before going to the mode, you must have the importer exporter code number. Otherwise, at the time of providing the services, otherwise this benefit will not be there to you. Otherwise, this benefit will not be there to you, because normally what happens in the case of the services, IEC code number is not being necessitated. It has no control, because in the case of the product, custom authority is there. They see like you must have the IEC code. But in the case of the services, there is no such control. So people somehow they do not have the IEC code number. But if one wants to avail the benefit under this scheme, so there must be an IEC code while you are providing the services. So now it comes is the mode of services. Mode 1, Mode 2. Benefit is available under this Mode 1 and 2. Mode 3 and 4, benefit is not there. The cross-border trade and consumption abroad. These are the two modes. Mode 1, what it says? Cross-border trade. It's a basically technology-driven services. Like I'm a chartered accountant, we all are a chartered accountant. We have some engagements to write some book writing of some overseas clients. We write their books sitting here in India. We have a software. They send us the raw data through the mechanism of the some mail process or some downloading from their website or from their portal, and ultimately processing data and sending back the financial statements or some process data or MEIS or something. So then it is a mode 1. It is by way of the technology. Neither he is visiting us nor we are giving going there for the purpose of the providing the services to that particular client. That is a mode 1. Mode 2, mode 2 is the person who is the service recipient. He is visiting to the service provider. Like if we talk about the hotel, we talk about the tour and travel services, we talk about the education services, we talk about the hospital services. These are the services which one has to get physically only. Suppose some person from the US, they visit, he is an NRI, they visit to the Indian hospital, they and get himself treated there by some surgery or medication. So he is visiting to that particular hospital and availing the services of that hospital and paying the money in the free convertible currency. That is basically mode 2. Consumption is by the person who is not from India, who is from the overseas, who is an NRI or maybe foreign national also. Maybe a human or may not be, maybe a corporate also, maybe perpetual person also, or corporate also. So that kind of things has to be understood with. Suppose there is a case come to me for a as far as for the advice or for uh, as far as the कि भाई मतलब NRI man, his parents are there in India. They have to be treated in some hospital and some surgery to be undertaken with. Money is being sent by the overseas client. A contact is between the overseas NRI and the hospital, and the service is being given to their parents, those who live in India. Whether this benefit will be available or not? Certainly not, because service is being given to, service is being provided to, it is not been consumed by the overseas party. So that point has to be noted with the money, though money is being realized in the free convertible currency. So that has to be understood with consumption. Mode 3 and mode 4 benefit is not there. Just for the sake of understanding what is mode 3 and mode 4, I'll be sharing with you. Commercial presence, like we have a office here in India. We all are a chartered accountant. We can open a office in US and render the services from that US office, and money is being realized there in the free convertible currency and returned back to the India itself. So this benefit will be not be available to us because it is not the services under mode 1 and 2. It is the mode 3 where the benefit is been not there. Mode 4, presence of the natural person. If suppose I visit to a country, suppose I visit to London and provide and undertake the some professional engagements there, and money is being realized there itself, or it is been remitted to India itself. But my physical presence overseas has debarred me for the availment of the this benefit under the scheme. Now, the another point to understand with, it is not the gross earnings on which this benefit will be available to you. It is the net foreign exchange. The money you realize, the money you earn, Money you earn and money you spend. Spending may be even of the capital nature. Some machinery is being imported. Then also the spending will be, those money spent will be also be reduced out of the earnings. Total uh, gross earnings in the foreign exchange minus total expenses, payment or remittances of the foreign exchange related to that particular service sector will be relating to the service sector in the financial year. It's a one application of for the whole of the year. Year to year, one application for each year that will be giving the benefit under the policy. And how much is the benefit? There are certain ineligible categories like if it is a money is being realized other than the services like some foreign loan, foreign currency loan, or the some ADR, GDR issues, or the money is being realized as a donation or some other manners. So then this benefit will not be there. Issuance of the foreign currency bonds, sale of the securities, other financial instruments, payment for services received from the EFC account, then this benefits will not be available. Service providers is telecom sector, so benefit not be available there. How much is the benefit? Benefit may be 5% or 7%, depending on the services you are entering, you are into. So accordingly, this benefit will be available to you. And now I'll be sharing with you a list of services. List of services. Net foreign exchange benefit will be there on the net foreign exchange. Now the service category, professional services, legal services, accounting, auditing and bookkeeping services, taxation services, architectural services, engineering services, integrated engineering services, urban planning and landscape architectural services, medical and dental services, veterinary services, services provided by midwives, nurses, physiotherapists, and paramedical personnel, all under the different CPC code. Central Product Classification Code is there, which is there in the WTO system, and the benefit available is 7% of the net foreign exchange earned by the exporter. Now, second comes is the research and development. R&D services on the natural sciences, R&D services on the social sciences and humanities, interdisciplinary R&D services, all under the 7% category. Rental leasing services without operator. Relating to, you may be knowing, you are maybe well aware of, there are certain companies also, certain maybe those who are the owner of the ship or the aircraft or other equipment, transport equipment or the plant and machinery. Maybe I do not know the person from the Tripur, some of my friends, those who are the participants also, maybe some owner of the aircraft also, and he lends that aircraft to the overseas party and make money, realize the money as a rental out of that, and that leasing out of that particular aircraft. So then whatsoever you earn, the 7% will be given by the government in addition to whatsoever the commercial transaction or whatsoever you are realizing uh, um, as a consideration of leasing out the your aircraft. Relating to ship, aircraft, other transport equipment, other machinery and equipments, all under 7% category, this benefit is available. Other business services, advertising services, market research and public opinion polling services, management consulting services, services related to management consulting, technical testing and analysis services, services incidental to agriculture, hunting and forestry, services incidental to fishing, services incidental to mining, services incidental to manufacturing, services incidental to energy distribution, placement and supply services of personnel, investigation and security services, related scientific and technical consulting services, maintenance and repair of equipment, building cleaning services, photographic services, packaging services, printing, publishing, conventional services, convention services, all under the 5% category. The two rates 7%, 5%. Communication services, motion picture and video tape production and distribution services, motion picture projection service, radio and television services, radio and television transmission services, sound recording, all under 7%. Construction and related engineering services, general construction, civil engineering, assembly work and installation, building completion and finishing work, all under 7%. Educational services, primary, secondary, higher adult, all 7%. Environmental, sewage, refuse disposal, sanitation, and similar services, all under 7%. Health related and social services, hospital services, tourism and travel related services, hotel, restaurant, tour agency and tour operator, tourist guide, 5% or 7% as the case may be, recreational, cultural and sporting services, entertainment services, news agency, libraries, archives, museum, sporting and other recreational services, 7%. Merit transport services. Here there is a one catch. You have to understand with there are certain recipients from the oversized countries, those who receive the services from the Indian party itself in India itself. Like if we talk about the in the case of the transport services, suppose there is a air transport, some shipping line from the overseas. Like if we talk about the Singapore airline, they get the services at the airports in India from the different vendors, different service providers, and they pay the money in the Indian rupee itself to the services provider. Then also this benefit will be there because it is under the presumption category, presuming category of the Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank give them the power to take back the money and remit the money in the free convertible currency. Rather than doing so, they are allowed to spend the money in Indian rupee to the Indian service providers. So then it is presumed that if it is the same money is being realized in the free convertible currency also. So then even if the money is being realized in the Indian rupee, the benefit is available. This is in the case of the maritime transport services, passenger transportation, transportation, rental of the vessel with crew, maintenance and repair of the vessel, pushing and towing services, porting services for maritime service, air transport services, road transport services, and services auxiliary to all mode of transport, cargo handling, storage and warehouse, freight transport agency services. So this benefit will be there at the rate of 7%. So friends, these are basically the service list rate benefit of the 5% or 7% as the case may be. The benefit is there on a year to year one application. But how long when to be filed the application? Like if we talk about this policy is for 15-20, though policy has been extended by 1 year, but exception is this SEIS scheme. So if but how long? Within a year of the year of the closure and subsequently 2 years with little late cut fees, then that means within 3 years of the year closure you can file the application. First year, within 1 year, it is 100% whatsoever the benefit is available to you. If it is delayed by 6 months, 2% late cut with the eligible amount. Then another 6 months, 5% late cut will be there. Another 1 year, 10% late cut will be there. Like we'll take it like year 1819. 1819, one would have filed by 31st March 2020. But 31st March 2020 was the because of the COVID, the government has relaxed it. By 31st December, one can file the application in the normal course because its date has already been extended. 1819, one can file the application by 31st December 2020. And subsequent to that also, one can file with as far as the in the extended period whatever is being given under the Chapter 9 of the Foreign Trade Policy by way of the late cut fees. Then 1718, I have shared with you 1819. Now talk about the 1718. 1718 in the normal course you may have filed by 31st March 19, but 2 more years are available to you with a late cut by 21, by 31st March 2021. By 10% late cut you can file it. 1617, it has already time barred, though extension was being granted because of the COVID. That was also 30th of June. So that period has also lapsed. So this benefit is not there for 1617. 1718, one can file it by 31st March 2021. 1819, yes, in the normal course by 31st December. Subsequent to that, with the late cut. 1920, though year has already been over, but the notification, respective notification is yet not come, expected at any moment, at any time, as the government feel like ease of. You see, like today, government is facing some challenges because of the budget scarcity, or the pandemic, or the spending has to be reduced. Ministry of Because this all comes under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, but finance is being looked after by the finance ministry only. What is this is not a this MEIS and the CIS is not a direct benefit transfer. It is not coming directly to your bank account. It is in the shape of a license. It is in the shape of an authorization. It is an authorization given to you. That authorization is a transferable, or you can use it for the payment of the custom duty other than the IGST. Other than the IGST, one can discharge the liability of paying custom duty, basic, safeguard, transitional, or anti-dumping, or any other duty other than the IGST. So this, there will be no GST on it because this has been exempted under the GST through a notification, and you can sell it in the market also. It is a freely tradable, hot demanded product, so you can sell it in the market. And why you will be selling it? Why? What will be the gain to the buyer? Because he has to discharge his liability. You will be selling in at a discount. The discount may be ranging from the 3-4% depending on the demand and supply. With that, to the extent of that discount, the importer will be the gainer to that extent. So friends, these were the SCIS scheme. And now coming to the another thing in the chapter 3 itself, which recognizes the exporters. If you are a regular exporter, you are doing for the last 3 years plus current year, and you have touched the, you have reached to the threshold, so then you will be recognized as a 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star export house. In the category, if you touch that 3 billion US dollar, 3 million US dollar, it is million US dollar. So 1 star during the current year plus last 3 years taken together, adding together, so then you will be in the category of the 1 star, 25 million US dollar 2 star, 100 million US dollar 3 star, 500 million US dollar 4 star, 2000 million US dollar 5 star. So there is no fiscal benefit of it. It is just like a recognition as a VIP, VVIP category. So there are certain privileges which are there to the export house, to the holder of the certificate, as like input output norms, furnishing of the bank guarantee. Instead of bank guarantee, one can go for the LUT or the bond. So those are not compulsory negotiation of documents through the banks. So those are certain benefits available to you. Those are the privileges available to the status holder. One must go for it so that you are being recognized. You can show to the your clients also that I am in the category of the, that gives the strength, that shows the strength of the exporter. So those are the points to be understood with as far as the friends. Now I'll be moving to the chapter 4. Chapter 4 is nothing beyond a duty exemption and remission scheme. You see, like I'm a producer of some product which has to be exported. There is a simple concept. The export must not carry any kind of the duties and taxes. Wherever any duties and taxes are there, that has to be remitted back or exemption to the first stage itself to be given to the importer or the buyer of the products. Like if we buy the local goods, which is an exporter, one can avail the benefit of the merchant exporter. So then definitely at a just for the sake of a token sum, it has been, or you will be refunded back after. Same is the case of the imports also. Like if you are importing some the raw material or the components which will be used for the manufacture or for the purpose of the bringing out a product which will be exported. So then you can import it duty free under the scheme called advance authorization. But there are conditions to it. There is the obligation involved. If you fulfill that obligation, then only this scheme. Otherwise, you have to pay back the duty. Another scheme is the DFIA. These are the alternative scheme. Third scheme is the duty drawback under the custom law, which is also an alternative. Here the benefit is like you are being benefited because there are some incidents of the taxes while you are importing, and importing is for the purpose of the manufacture of the products exported to be exported. So then you can avail the benefit under the advance authorization. You have simply applied to the office of the DGFT on the online portal. If it is some standard input auto norms are there in the book of the norms, so then you have to go accordingly. If it is not there, so on a self declaration basis you can avail the benefit, and provided you give an undertaking, yes, if government or the department norms committee does not agree with my self declaration and they find something different, so I'll be liable to pay back the differential amount of the duty along with the interest. 15% value addition must be there. Timeline for the imports under the advance authorization once you obtain the license. Timeline for the fulfillment of the obligation of the exports. If you are not able to do, you can get the extension done for 2 times of 6 months each by payment of the composition fees. So whole of the duty, including IGST, will be exempt for the payment because you are ultimately product is the exporting product. So, but you have to file an undertaking. You have to fulfill that obligation. You have to give a bond also at the custom. So there is this is a case to case basis also. You can avail the benefit of the annual requirement, one license for whole of the year. If you are producing one product and you are going with the going for again and again single license rather than you obtain one license for the whole of the year, that license can vary, that can maximum to the extent of 300% of the FOB value of the exports done in the last year. So those are the provisions. So DFIA, you can get the license, and as per the SION, it is applicable only in the case of the SION are fixed, and you can export first and obtain the license, import the subsequent or sell the DFIA in the market also, because you are being made eligible to import those products, finished products you have already exported with. So duty drawback is a concept which is been governed under the custom law, custom tariff and custom act. जो है, I'll be not touching on much. 74 and 75, there are some brand rate fixation or something which has been imported and exported as it is before usage or the after usage, some usage or the all industry rate are these are the things which one has to understand under section 74 and 75 under the category of the duty drawback schemes. Now coming to the EPCG scheme. EPCG is the another scheme under the foreign trade policy which gives you the benefit of the importing a capital goods. Capital goods to be imported for the service sector also, for the manufacturing sector also. Here, except those who have been listed as a negative items, you are being allowed to import, provided you give an undertaking is 6 times of the duty saved whatsoever the duty you saved, suppose you are importing a 1 crore rupee machinery and there is a 30% duty combined together, including IGST. So 30 lakh you are saving, 6 times of the duty saved, 1.8 crore. In 6 years, you have to export of the products, whatsoever you are manufacturing out of that machine. That is not complete in itself. Over and above whatsoever, if you are an existing exporter has to fulfill the obligation of the average of the last 3 years also, continue to fulfill that also over a period of time till this obligation is not been completed. So that has also to be there. Obligation is there in the advance authorization also and the this EPCG also. Here one has to understand with at a different point of time chartered accountant certificate required in the case of the import of the under the advance authorization also, discharging the liability also, the obligation also. Same way in the this EPCG also, while fulfilling the obligation, here also the certificate of a chartered accountant required. These are the negative items where it is not allowed under the EPCG to import under the scheme. So 6 times in 6 months, if you can do little early, so then benefit of rather than going, if you can, this 6 years also divided into two parts, two blocks, one 4 year block, another 2 years block. You have to 50% you have to complete in must in the first 4 year, or you can get extension for the another 2 years in that category also. But if you complete within the first block, so 25% of the uh, total, like rather than going for the 6 times, you will be given 4.5 times in the period in the 4 years. So that will be additional advantage given to the fast movers, fast earners of the exports. Friends, there is another scheme which is called TMA, Transport and Marketing Assistance. This is only meant for the chapter 1 to 24, barring some of the items within the chapters which relates with the agro products, agriculture and the value added products. Here you will get the freight benefit. It's a direct benefit transfer. Chapter 1 to 5, 1, 2 and 5, certain items are being taken out. Though chapter 1 to 24, this scheme is available, but within the chapter, certain items are being taken out, like all this live animal. The chapter 3, chapter 4, certain items are being taken out. Chapter 7, 10, 13, 14, 17, 22 and 24, certain items are being taken out. So with this, and what is the benefit? The reefer container, depending on the container or the by air you are exporting with, 20-footer container is the measurement, whether it is reefer container, refrigerated container or the normal container, the country or the region you are exporting, and if it is by air, the per kg, the benefit is available to you. There is a list on the website of the DGFT. I'll share with each one of you my this PPT also, which I'll request the branch chairman and the other executives to share with each one of you, those who are participating, and otherwise also one can share with the other members also. Permissible countries are there where this benefit is there. So application has to be filed online under the under office of the DGFT, dgft.gov.in. There are certain ineligible categories, like if it is an export through the from the SCZ, export through the FTWZ, so those are the not allowed. E-commerce also not allowed. This all is the as far as the benefit under the documents required checklist is also given to which has to be uploaded with. Here also chartered accountant certificate is required while filing the application under the TMA also. Under the provision of the policy at a different requirements of the filing or the claiming benefits under the policy. So this is a necessity to be required by a chartered accountant or the other professionals, which we all know. So those are the basically to understand the benefit available under the foreign trade policy with us. Friends, let me, those are basically the provisions whatsoever is available under the foreign trade policy as far as the benefit is concerned. If one can have one, otherwise, if I'll request the chairman if he want me to break here or some question answer are there. Otherwise, I'll continue to be there, and in the last 10-15 minutes we can take the question. If there are the questions, then Ramuji.
Can continue. Yes, sir. I am online, sir. You can continue for another 10 minutes, sir.
Yeah, I'll continue for another 10,
Yes,
10 15
sir.
minutes. Then, if you have any question
Yeah, yeah.
or any member have the questions, so we
Yes,
can
sir.
take the question also.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Friends, let us understand why exports are being promoted and imports are not been imports are being taken otherwise. You see, like government functions, whosoever may be the government, whether it is the India or other countries, like every country needs to strengthen their economy, whether it is the internal consumption or the external to be exported with. The India, because in the past few years not been into the more into the India has shifted its economy base from a earlier it used to be the agro economy, then moved to the economy of the manufacturing or the industrial economy, then it settled now with the service economy. But that should not be the case. There must be a balanced economy, must be balanced. Like if we talk about what we say normally, if we are an investor, we have a suppose like Ramu ji may be having a 100 crore of rupee with him. If he invest in one company, so that will not be good. I expect ki Ramu bhai has a that kind of strength of 100 crore. Our chairman has a 100 crore with him. So if that is been invested in one kitty, so that is not a good. That is not good. So same way, the country as such, economy should be divided. Economy should be balanced. Like we keep on shifting. The imports also starts flowing like anything. Like in the electronic segments, India, because of the China has taken forward. Earlier, it used to be the Japan, which moved to the China manufacturing base, moved to the China, and China's goods flowing into India in the electronic segments. But in the last 2, 3, 4 years, the government thought of this is not the good process. Now we have to move towards the bringing out the manufacturing base again into the country. Now they come with the schemes like production link incentive schemes or the scheme like specs for the electronic components. So those are the schemes which are giving benefit to. So manufacturing sector has to be given advantage accordingly. So import has to be reduced. So what is that? The import has to be taken out because import is somewhere is detrimenting the interest of the local manufacturing and the employment also. Here we have a surplus of the employment. We are somewhere unemployment are growing with. So we have to frame our policy accordingly. If we talk about the export of the goods, it's a taking the goods out of India anywhere. Export of services, if we talk about, in the case of the GST, there are 5 major points to be understood with. What conditions has to be there? Supplier of services located in India, recipient of services located outside India, place of supply of services outside India, payment of such services has been realized in the free convertible currency, and supplier and the recipient of services are not merely establishment of a distinct person in accordance with the explanation given one of the section 8. But that is not the case of the export of services as far as the foreign trade policy is concerned. If one wants to avail the benefit, so then one has to go with the foreign trade policy benefits rather than going otherwise. Zero rated concept, we all know. It is available even if you are supplying to the SCZ or the developer of the SCZ. Our 1/3 of the export from India is through the SCZ or the FTWZ. That is the best part. And let me share with each one of you the opportunities for our profession. Out of this 3 trillion US dollar economy, we have seen like 500 plus billion US dollar is the exports, and 500 plus billion US dollar is the imports also. And who can serve to this community the best? None other than the chartered accountant. Because we have a subject knowledge, we can gain the knowledge where we are not having to. Our understanding and analytical skill is better than the any other profession. Our moving going to the government for the benefit of our client is much easier. They listen us. If we talk about the Ministry of Commerce and Industry or to the state government also, so those are the advantageous position for each one of us to serve to the clients, those who are into the export and import business. So with those kind of understanding, we have to understand it is the concept of the supplying to the SCZ also. That is also been considered as a foreign territory. SCZ or FTWZ, though they are located within India, but their presence within India is also being treated as a they are within the vicinity of the overseas. They are the foreign territory. Anything whatsoever you supply to these SCZ units or SCZ developer, they are equal to the exports. The benefit is equally available to you. May not be this SCZ, this MEIS, but like this, if you are going to import under the scheme advance authorization or import under the scheme of the EPCG, this benefit will be available to you. Under the deemed category, under the this GST law, four categories are there: supply of the goods against advance authorization, supply of the capital goods against EPCG authorization, supply of the goods EOU units, supply of the gold by a bank or the PSU against the advance authorization. Then this is under the deeming fiction. One can get the refund if you are supplying to this category. It is not zero rated. But in the refund mechanism, you can avail the benefit of this. Merchant export, we all know, goods brought, goods purchased within India and exported as it is, without any alteration, without any modification. So then you can get the goods at a 0.10% from the local supplier and export it. And this also you can avail the refund of this 0.10% also. But there are certain conditions to it which one has to match with the period within which one has to export, the goods where to keep with, the if aggregation required all at one place, and ultimately you have to be file the documents with the concerned GST officer, so that benefit can be availed with. So in the supply of the services, even to the Nepal and Bhutan, that has been brought under the export category. From even if the amount is being realized only for the limited purpose of the IGST, not for the purpose of the availment of the SCIS scheme. SCIS scheme only available once you get the benefit of the free convertible currency. Then only this benefit will be available. There are certain, as far as the comparison between the GST and the foreign trade policy, IGST is exempted on import against the EPCG, import against the advance authorization. It is whole of the duty, 0% duty. IGST is exempted on import against the whether it is the MEIS, because but MEIS and CIS cannot be used for the payment of the IGST. It can be used only for the payment of the custom duty and the related duties other than the IGST. Let us understand the accounting profession. Accounting profession is a value-added profession, is a sportive profession, sport to the business community. And if you are exporting to the overseas clients, so then naturally the growth will be much higher. If we talk about this committee, committee has two parts. One is related with the as far as the development of the trade. Another one is the development of the services also. We encourage, yes, we are a professional. We can find out the overseas clients. We can develop an accounting process outsourcing and ultimately add value and export our services to the overseas clients. So that is basically to understand with there is a huge scope. There is an abundance opportunity for each one of us to get the clients developed beyond the boundaries. India is a one country. We have a 200 odd countries. Those who are maybe some, maybe very few, maybe not even matching the even a small state also of the our country. That you can ignore them. Even then, so many countries are the developed nation. So many countries, those who are because of the leverage of the even the pricing factor itself. Like if we talk about the US, it's a uh, quite costly as far as finding out a professional. It's a quite like for a 1 hour they charge 1 hour professional advice they charge very heavily. The same services if it is they get from the India, it comes to maybe 10% even. So how every businessman needs a reasonable pricing. So it will be beneficial for us also to explore the opportunities overseas, giving them the trust, giving them the confidence, giving them the understand we will be charging reasonably, giving them benefit. Our services will be at par or better placed than what you are getting now. So with those kind of concepts, one can get the benefit of the client or get the benefit of serving to the clients overseas and ultimately realizing the free convertible currency for the country and availing for ourselves also benefit under the scheme called SCIS also. So friends, with these words, I'm back to the chairman and the secretary of the branch, Tripur branch. Over to you, Ramuji, for any
Yes, sir. I am
question.
online, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for enlightening us. This will be very useful to all our members, dear members. Our Central Council member gave a broad view of this foreign trade policy, and we can unearth the detailed things from his book also for further reference. Members can ask questions. Members, whoever wants to ask questions can unmute and join, or their questions in the chat box. Sir, I have 4 questions, sir.
Yeah, just tell me.
Anyone please join, sir. Yeah, please.
I'll be going, slide will be taken.
Members can join.
Yeah.
Sir, I also got one question, sir. Just after Ramu sir asked, just I'll ask, sir.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I have 4 questions, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, whether in the for fulfilling the EPCC obligations, whether trading goods is allowed, sir. I am not the manufacturer, but that the
No,
person
no, no.
who is having that license, yeah,
Yeah,
is not
basically,
manufacturing.
this EPCG is meant for the purpose of the either for the services sector or for the manufacturing sector. The goods which is being brought as it is and exported as it is, you cannot fulfill the obligation out of that. The machine purpose, there is a nexus involved. That machine either in the production process or before production or post production or usage in the services if it is a service sector. It cannot be through the this as for the trading goods. It cannot be.
I caution members, some exporters are using this method by purchasing finished goods from somebody else. They are fulfilling their obligations. Members are requested to be cautious on this before giving the certificate. And the source of the material has to be verified. And one more next question, sir. Whether the bonded manufacturing system, whether it will replace the EPCC and other export incentive schemes, bonded manufacturing system.
No, no. Bonded manufacturing system is something different. You are under bond. You can import it. Without involvement of the DGFT, it's a custom notification. You import the goods within the boundary, within the custom bonded warehouse. You manufacture the goods and export as it is. So that is a concept altogether different. It is not nowhere related with the EPCG. EPCG, yes, any machinery required, you can import it under the EPCG also.
Sir, short realization of the export process and its impact on duty drawbacks.
Yeah, basically, if it is a short realization, the proportionate amount to be given back to the custom department along with the interest. Now, interest at the rate of 15%. As you basically at same time you have to you have to go to your authorized dealer also. Authorized for the waiver or for if it is within the 5% limit of the average, so then authorized dealer will recommend to the RBI. Otherwise, RBI special permission is required for the purpose of the waiver of that write off also for the writing of that amount also.
Sir, for export through courier, he told that the cap is 5 lakh rupees. So that the 5 lakh is per annum export through courier, sir. MEIS permits up to 5 lakh rupees. And up to 5 lakh rupees per annum.
MBIS benefit will be calculated on the presuming that you have exported to the tune of 5 lakh only. Like suppose if you have exported 10 lakh rupee product,
Yeah.
but for the availment of this benefit, that will be taken as a 5 lakh rupees rather than 10 lakh rupees. You can export 10 lakh also. But
Okay.
to avail the benefit
Yeah.
under the MEIS, this will be treated as a on the presumptive basis your export is 5 lakh rupees.
That means that they are not encouraging export through courier or post. Is it correct, sir? They are not encouraging to export
They are
through
not
courier or
encouraging.
post.
Basically, there is not much control now.
Yes.
Basically, it's a losing out the control
Yeah.
and to have a little protective system,
Yeah.
like everyone, you need like risk management. So
Yeah.
under that category, it has been taken accordingly.
Sir, whether
The
it
same-
is for consignment or per year, sir.
What is it? So for duty drawback also same thing will be there, sir. For export through courier,
Input through?
the export through courier, duty
Yeah.
drawback also some limitations there. Duty drawback.
No. There is no limit.
Okay, sir. What are the conditions, sir, for getting
Duty drawback. There is a system of the all industry rate.
yeah?
Duty drawback driven under the Custom Act section 74 and 75. So you are either under the brand rate fixation, like whatever the duty incidence is there on that particular product, you can calculate and you can get it refunded accordingly, or you can go for the all industry rate, or if it is the goods as it is imported and exported as it is, so then refund of the duty. So that is the another mechanism where you have to prove like it's a identical goods, same goods. So this is gone under the custom law.
Thank you very much, sir. One more question, sir. For agreement with the USDA, first for discussion, they're asking us to sign one non-disclosure agreement. Non-disclosure agreement, they are asking us to sign. Then only they are sorting discussions. And then after discussions, that other business may be emerging or may not be there. But before that, they're asking us to sign one agreement, non-disclosure agreement. Is it correct, sir?
Yeah,
That is so. Am I clear, sir?
Pardon, can you repeat it?
Sir, for entry to discuss with the USA partner is asking us to sign one non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah,
Even for
indeed.
preliminary discussions.
Okay.
Even for preliminary discussions, after the discussions or negotiations, business may be coming or may not be there. If you are willing, we can enter. Otherwise, we can mutually withdraw. So in such a condition, what is the fate of the agreement? Agreement says that there are so many conditions. damages and specific performance are both. Damages, there is no quantification. Whatever they have asked damages, we have to pay. Such sort of agreement can be signed, sir.
No, agreement can be signed, basically non-disclosure agreement or the arrangement
Yeah.
without a condition for entering into any kind of business or the preliminary discussion even.
Yeah.
You see, like what these multinational companies or the Indian corporates now what they are doing with, even if it is within India. Suppose I am going to have some intention is there to enter into some business arrangement with that particular group or company.
Yeah.
So they have certain limitations for the data. Data is a gold nowadays.
Oh.
It's just like a oil. So if they share some documents or the something, and you are being bound by that agreement, you do not disclose to anyone else.
Yes.
Other than for a limited for that usability will be for the limited purpose only.
Yes, sir.
So that kind of understanding has to be there. It's a binding agreements. It is not like it is social agreements. Businesses
Yeah.
there or not there,
Yes.
but you are binding yourself
Yes.
with the contents written in the agreement itself.
There one condition they are putting, this agreement, damages, claiming, everything, perpetual. That whether the business is coming through or not coming through, perpetual, anytime they can claim damage. Is it correct, sir?
Yeah. Business or no business, that does not matter with.
Yeah. So there shouldn't be any finishing now. I say there's no end. At any time they can claim.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir, one more question, sir. Here, some exporters are claiming income tax exemption for MEIS also. MEIS also, we are claiming, and there are judgments from the income tax appellate tribunal also that MES is not related to business. It is a capital receipt, and we got that judgment for the assessment year 1617 also, even after the amendment of section 28(3). Whether this type of practice is followed in your place also, sir?
I am not an expert into the income tax, though I also know some these provisions are there, but I'll not comment upon. I'll not comment upon on this matter because it is not within my domain. I don't know much about the provisions, but in most of the cases, wherever I do have a clients, those who are into the exporters, they are treating it as a business income only. Because this has been originated out of the business only. This is not like it's a incidental and the part and parcel of the business only. This is not a grant given by some government without doing any business.
Yes, sir. Members, any other questions, members?
Sir, I have got one doubt, sir.
Please, sir.
Sir, I have got a client who has also got an association company in Singapore, sir.
Yeah.
The Indian-based company is importing certain machineries from China.
Yeah.
The Singapore-based company, who is also an associate of this local company, has made payments directly to the Singapore company. Sorry, to the Chinese company, to the suppliers.
Mm.
So, is there any form of, whereas the local company wants to issue the preference shares for the amount received from the Singapore company. That is how to deal with it, whether what are the procedures to be complied here.
No. Basically, you see, like under the FEMA,
Yeah.
the transaction which relates with the imports or which relates with the exports, that has to be settled independently. And once there is a merchandise trade between suppose Indian party, though the goods are not coming to India, goods are from one country, originating from one country and exported to the other country from there itself. Then also there is a mercantile trade regulations which says that they must be settled within a period of certain time within 9 months, and the transaction has to be first to be settled, the money to be come in, then only money can be go. Matlab, there are certain regulations. One has to go accordingly. It is not at your whims but it is not a local trade. The trade is being controlled. Trade is through the regulations. Trade is through the FEMA Act also. So, and the regulations made there under, it has to be matched accordingly. If you have specific situation, you can write it down to me. So then it will be reverted back.
Okay, thanks.
If you have any specific point to understand with, but it has to be taken independently. It's
Okay,
a
sir.
transaction. If it is an same person is importing something and exporting to the same party, that cannot be matched with, that cannot be taken like a netting off.
No, sir. Actually, Indian-based company is importing from China, for which
Yeah.
the payment is made from Singapore-based company.
It cannot be done.
Hmm.
It is irregularity.
Okay, okay,
So they will be under the FEMA. They
okay,
will be, somewhere catch hold of this transaction.
okay, sir.
Import and export, all transactions are through the mechanism of the bill of entry and the shipping bill.
Okay.
So they are being controlled from there itself. The documents under the control of the government, it generates from the custom department and automatically in the interface of the RBI and the bank, it goes then and there.
Okay, thanks.